Did you also ask him when he last showered?
I did. I asked him about his bathing habits, and he advised that he used the shower in the main floor bathroom. He advised that he had taken one shower the evening before after he had a workout. He ballparked that to be around 8 p.m., and then he advised he had taken another shower just prior to police coming into his home that morning. And that is why he was naked.
Did you ask him if he owns a hatchet?
I did. Mr. Dazey acknowledged that he did own a hatchet. He advised me that he kept that hatchet in his toolbox within his bedroom, and he also noted that he had actually observed that hatchet that morning.
Did Mr. Dazey make any statements concerning his discipline and awareness of surroundings?
There were multiple times during the interview where he stressed how disciplined he was and how he was very aware of everything around him and what was happening.
Did you ask any questions about the layout of the house?
I did, and as soon as I asked that question, he said, "You were there." So he was obviously recognized I was in the room with him earlier that morning.
Did you ask him about his relationship with his mother?
I did. His response was, "It's fine, except for when she's acting sneaky like a witch." He then went on to talk about how his mother was part of a covenant of witches. I also asked, I followed that up with how he thought his mom thought of him. And his answer to that question was, "I think she hated me so much that she hated herself."
Did you ask when he last had a conversation with his mother?
Yes, he advised that was just before police came in and got him, and at the time she was practicing witchcraft.
Did he say where that conversation took place?
Yes, he stated that his mother was in her bed, again, noting that she was practicing witchcraft.
Did you ask about specific events that morning?
I did multiple times throughout the interview early on when I tried to hone in on what he was doing in the minutes, the hours before police arrived. He would either say that he didn't remember or he would shift topic. Then toward the end of the interview, I again asked him what he could specifically recall happening before police got there. And he said that he was having a conversation in his head that he did not want to think about. This conversation was about trauma. He didn't want to think about it, and he would not expand on that when I asked him what that conversation was.
Did you ask him about his mom's witchcraft?
We went into that in a little more detail. He described her witchcraft as putting evil on him. He said just evil. I then asked him how he felt about his mother practicing witchcraft. And I think that is when he gets into stating something similar to, I just gave up. I just don't care. I don't need her to validate me. He then followed that comment up with, why would I care what a whore thinks? You sit around and drink yourself stupid, fuck like animals, and ruin your children's lives. Why would I care what a person like that thinks?
Did he say anything about, you know how witches are?
Yeah, that was in reference to, I asked him if he had ever called his mother a whore to her face. And he said, yeah, I did. I asked how his mom responded to that, and he said, she's a witch. You know how witches are. Oh, I'm better than you. I will be your fear. I will be your enemy.
Did you ask him to explain his mother's traumatic injuries?
Yes, about an hour and 18 minutes into the interview, I got to the point where I wanted him to explain the significant and severe injuries that she had. And when I asked him how she got these traumatic injuries, his response was witchcraft. I then specified that I was referring to the physical injuries to her body. He again responded witchcraft. I then asked him I was going to need a little better understanding of how witchcraft could cause such injuries. At that time, Mr. Dazey ended the interview.
Did you leave the recorder on when you left the interview room?
Yes, the recorder stayed on until we were all done executing the search warrant on Mr. Dazey's person. So at the conclusion of the interview, that's when I told him that we had to collect evidence from him, provided him a copy of the search warrant. Gorell and I then exited the room to gather up our gear for collection. After the fact, when I went back and watched the interview to type up my report, I noted that Mr. Dazey made some comments aloud while we were out of the room.
What did he say? What were the comments?
He stated, "I would gladly spend an eternity in hell if she could just have a chance at heaven."
Was Mr. Dazey also alone in the squad car when you brought him to the port, when he was brought to the port down at the law enforcement center?
Yes, so Skorupski and I transported him from Mercy back down to the law enforcement center. Once we pulled into the Sally port, the two of us, I exited the squad car. In that process, I dropped my portable radio, the battery bounced off, and we were looking on the ground for my battery. Then we got him out. So he was in the squad car for over a minute before we pulled him out. After the fact, I went back and reviewed that footage from the squad car.
Did he say anything during that time he was in the squad car?
He did. Mr. Dazey made a couple comments during that time. He stated at first, "They will never figure out the psychology. You have a choice, conquer me or hell it is." He then paused, stated, "I love you, I'm tired," and that was the end of the comments.
Now, before Mr. Dazey was taken up to the jail floor after the interview, did he say anything spontaneously?
Yes, it was actually, he and I were just standing in the interview room together because we had collected the Tyvek suit as evidence. I was waiting for Gorell to return with some clothing. We weren't talking, I wasn't questioning him, and he just stated aloud, "Witchcraft, brother, witchcraft. A lot that is wrong with my life. When people are trying to get in your way when you are just trying to pursue happiness."
Did you tell him he was being arrested before he was taken up to the jail floor?
I did. He actually asked me if he was getting showered in, referring to going up to the jail floor. It was at that time I told him he was being arrested for the murder of his mother. His response was, "It's hard to argue witchcraft in court, isn't it?"
During all of your interactions with Mr. Dazey, did he at any time ever deny harming his mother or the dog?
Not once.
Thank you. I don't have anything further.
Cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. On direct examination, you talked a little bit about watching the traffic cameras related to Kylie Frey or Kylie Dazey.
Correct.
All right. Are there any traffic cameras on Avoca?
There are not.
And which traffic camera were you watching on the corner of 24th and Jackson?
There's a camera at 24th and Jackson directed to the north, which captures the block in which she lives in, or lived in at the time.
And does it show the front door of her residence?
It does not. Her door is on the south side of the residence, recessed away from